Hello everybody, welcome to the class today. I'm Nolan Clark, and in this class we're going to be painting an Art Nouveau portrait in acrylic. So follow along and I'll show you how we do that. So right off the bat, I'm not going to go into a long explanation about what Art Nouveau is. In the description below, I've given you a link to an excellent YouTube video that explains beautifully the whole background of what Art Nouveau is, how it came about, and all those background facts like that. So all I'm going to do is give you the TLDR, the too long didn't read bit. So Art Nouveau basically means new art in French. It originated in the late 1800s and the early 1900s, and it was born from a move away from the establishment, where people used to go and study art and end up painting hyper-realistic paintings and so on. The guys wanted to be a little bit more creative, give a bit more expression to their creativity that was inside. So there was a move away from this photorealism to a more flowing graphic design kind of iconic type of art, which was strongly inspired by nature. So you would typically see in an Art Nouveau painting, you would see muted colors, you would see lots of curly lines, you would see flowers and elements inspired by nature, and you'd also see a flattening of the details in the artwork. So my inspiration for today's artwork was one of the main artists of the Art Nouveau era, and that was Alphonse Mucha, and this is one of his artworks you're seeing on the screen here now. So let's go and take a look and just see if we can point out all those little iconic recognizable features that made Art Nouveau an Art Nouveau artwork. So the first one we said was the muted colors. Can you see how, like here in the face and everywhere, there's no super bright colors. They're more pastel kind of colors. Then you've got lots of curly lines. Take a look here in the hair, all these beautiful curl back lines. And then you have lots of inspiration from nature. So we have the zodiac signs here. You've got all these leaves and the branches and so on. Here's flowers, and then you also have a flattening of the details. So you can see, especially here in the face and the hair, you can see it nicely. There's no high detail painted in. There's just enough of your shading added in to give it some dimension, but it's not strong like you would normally paint it. So for today's artwork, I was inspired by this one from Alphonse, as well as this one. I really like this. So what Alphonse did was he was quite popular for creating posters for the plays and stuff like that, and adverts. So we'll use this and create our own little artwork in this style. So from the, let me bring that up, this guy over here. So from the class banner, you see I have sort of done a mock-up of something already. So I wanted to show you how I've got to this, so that you know how to create something like this on your own afterwards. So let's bring up my my drawing software, and I'll show you how I've done this. So the first thing I did was I went to Pixabay and I found this photograph over here. because I did want a lady in it, because that's what Alphonse did. So I took this over here. Then obviously we needed to mute the colors, so I muted those guys down. And then we wanted like a flowery effect as well in the background. And while I was browsing Pixabay, I came across this guy over here, and I really liked that because you had those two-tone flowers and those flowing lines, which was really typical of the Art Nouveau movement. So I've put them down in the background over here as well. And as you can see, I've fiddled a little bit with the colors as well. And then what I also did, you'll see if you take a look at, say, this guy over here, there's lots of almost that pop arty kind of edging around the items. So we needed that as well. So to do that, I just ran a filter through the photo of the lady to get the outlines of it. So it was that, and I overlaid them onto the original photograph of this. And then so for the mock-up, all I've done is I've just erased the background, so you can still see there's quite rough little lines over there. So that's the plan for today. We're going to go and paint all that. I'm really looking forward to it. So I think for now, let's go through to here. So if you are a patron, you can go and download all the reference material. I have added this all into PDFs for you. There's the reference photo like this. There's one of the outlines. So I've taken away the color bit just so that you can reference that. And I'm working on a 12 by 16 inch canvas today. So there is a printable tiled template which you can go and use as well for sketch outlines and for reference from as you're working. To become a patron, you can go and head over to my website. There's the link over there. Let me pop it in the chat box for you too. You can get over there, onlineartlessons.com. Alrighty, so now you're probably asking me now, how on earth do I get those fancy flowers if I want to do my own? And it's actually really quite simple. So I've just got myself just a random photo. So this was a hibiscus, so I just grabbed a random photo of a hibiscus off Pixabay and I printed that out. All you need to do is follow the contour lines of the object. So let's just use, say, a marker. Let me grab one of those. So I'm just going to use just a whiteboard marker here, and I'll put down a piece of just some tracing paper over there. So the first thing you want is the outlines. So let's get ourselves some outlines. Because that's now what gives you the definition of the object itself. Okay, there you go. And this one over here. So here, when you've got something complicated like that, all you're going to do is simplify it. Can you see over here? It's just little basic shapes. There, I think you can see it nicely over there. So that's all you're going to do. You've got a basic shape, something like that over there. And here you've just got a little basic shape. And that's all you're going to do is just outline it. And that gives you that feel for it. Gold Classes have just become a patron. Thank you so much for the support. I appreciate it. There's hundreds of classes there for you, so I'm sure it's going to keep you well busy. That on top of your quilting. All right, so on the inside bits, so there you're just going to look for the most prominent guys. So generally you're gonna I'll start here with the center line, because you know that gives you can say a shape to work from. And then from there, everything just becomes thinner. So I've just have this guy over here. So it's probably not going to become much thinner. But now all you're going to do is just follow these little, those little contour lines that give you the shape of the object. So in this case, we're doing petals. So that's all you need, is that over there. So we'll just do the one, because we've been doing quite a lot of that in the class. But you see there? Easy peasy. So you've taken a photograph, and that's got you to that. So what I've done to transfer this onto the canvas, while still without getting myself all confused about what's background, these lighter guys, and what's foreground, and what's outlines over here, I've used a dressmaker's carbon paper. But I've used different colors. So I've used yellow, I've used a green, and I've used a blue. So for the, let's bring this guy back, so we've got sort of both here at the same time. So for these dark guys, I've used the yellow. And for the lighter guys in the background, I've used the green paper. And for the lady, I've used the blue dressmaker's carbon paper. So you should be able to get that at any one of your dressmakers kind of shops. Our local one here is called Spotlight. I got it from there. And you can order it online as well. Just do a Google search for dressmaker's carbon paper. Right, so usually when you're doing something like this, you're going to give it a basic kind of background. Maybe you can give it a light green or a light blue or something like that. For today, I'm going to stick with the white background. Now, you always work from the back and you work your way forward, right? So we'll do those light. Let's bring this guy back. We'll do those light guys because they seem like they're in the background, even though they, yeah, I suppose they are, because these dark ones are overlapping them. So they are in the background. We'll do them first, then we'll do the flowers, and then we'll do the portrait. So even with the portrait, you've got to work back in your way forward. So you'll have to put that wash, the color washes into the face, and then come back in afterwards and do the outlining kind of work. So there's two ways that you can do all these little line work. You can use a good old-fashioned rigger brush, get your paint, thin it down a lot, and do all these lines like that. Takes you forever, but it looks fabulous. And it's very therapeutic, so by all means go ahead. To speed things up today, what I'm going to use are acrylic paint pens. So these are the Liquitex ones. You get different brands as well. Let's see if I can zoom in on that for you. Let's maybe go to this camera over here. So I've got 4 colors here, which I just grabbed at our local stationery store. They stock them over there. So this is a bright aqua green. That looked like a nice color for the flowers. And then for an outline on those flowers, I've chosen the Cerulean blue hue. They seem to follow nicely along each other. We'll see if it's like that in real life. And I grabbed an iridescent antique gold. Just a gold. Fancy word for gold. I'm sure we can add some of that, because they did often use gold leaf and stuff inside the Art Nouveau artworks. And then some carbon black for those lovely outlines, which I think we'll use here by the lady, and then here by the flowers and stuff we'll go for more of these guys over here. And maybe we'll use some, I think we'll use some beautiful gold streaks here inside the hair. I think that could look cool. So I'm really looking forward to it. Alrighty. So I'm going to start with this guy over here. So if you haven't seen these pens before, let me just grab just a piece of paper and show you how they work. So you've got to be careful that it does bleed through the paper, because it is ink after all. Well, it's paint, but it's consistency of an ink. So don't do it on a piece of paper on top of your canvas. Do it on something that's scrap, like this. So when you initially get it, your pens are dry, because they don't want this tip of yours to dry out in transport. So this is just a dry tip. So you need to prime it. So what you're going to do is just take it, and as you press it, let me see if I can press it against here. That tip goes in like that. Let's zoom back in again. Let's go back to that camera. You see there? That little tip goes in. So when it goes in, it's releasing some of the paint that's in here, and it's now soaking into this. It's basically, I suppose it's just a felt tip. And you can see it already coming out there. So when you've got a new one, or when you first start working, just reprime your tips until they're nice and fresh and nice and coated with paint. So I specifically didn't prime that one. I did have a play with this pen to see what his color was like, and it was absolutely beautiful. So I always just give these guys a quick little prime before I get going. That way you know when you start painting, they're gonna come out good. Yeah, there you can see there, some of that green has gone through the paper. It's bled. So don't do something like that on top of your artwork, unless you want a boo-boo. Alrighty, so we're going to start with these background guys. And for that, I'm going to use the green. So you'll see when I transferred, all I did was I just did the basic outlines of each petal and each leaf. So all I'm going to do now is just start sketching these guys like this. So when I do this, I'm going to keep my reference photo close by, and to make sure I don't get lost, I'll keep my finger on the place where I'm working. For example, like over here is now this leaf. So I don't have to keep looking, where was I, where's my place. I can instantly find my place. And all I'm going to do is just get these basic outlines in, and then we'll use just our knowledge of how these are created to add in the inside lines. Alright, you see what I'm doing, so I'm going to just go out for now. Easier for you to see what's happening there. And keep your lines nice and flowing. Those nice flowing movements were part of what made the Art Nouveau artworks distinct from other styles of art. Okay, that's a hair. There's just a little bit of a leaf peeping out on that side, and I've left these corners empty for now. So like I say, if you don't have these pens, you can just do this with a rigger brush. But I think you can already see that there's no way you can paint at this speed with a rigger brush. So this really does help you get these artworks done a lot quicker. Alright, here's lots of stuff happening in this corner over here, like that. So I may just simplify that. I just simplify this a little bit over there. So I'm really hoping these colors that I've chosen are going to give us a nice effect in the end of the day. What's nice about these pens as well, because they're a chisel point, you can now turn it to have a thin lines, or you turn it sideways, you get thicker lines, and so on. So initially I'm drawing them with a thinner point. So as you can see, you're not getting as thin lines as what you get on the reference photo. But we'll basically just use our artist license and change things and do things the way we want. Alright, so now that I've got those basic outlines in, now I can see the shapes. So now I'm just going to use them to add extra details inside these guys, those little contour lines that we're chatting about. And then once you're done, then you can come back in with that item and just thicken up the outside edge to define that outside edge. Like that. And you can see that gives us nice little bits of definition over there. Center line, and then a few more contour lines around it like that. And thicken up the outside. And then here, when you have items that are overlapping each other, then it's really important to use, like cross-hatching, you use different directions. And then obviously the thicker edges to create definition between the different items. Alrighty, so just use your reference photo to get these directions of yours right. Let's see, this is quite a large leaf or petal here at the back. So I'm gradually changing those angles to show that that petal is changing angles. And as with any acrylic paint, you'll also see that these pens dry darker. Than when you put them on. Same as normal acrylic paint. It's literally standard acrylic paint in here. I think they have added just like a bit of an alcohol base to get it to dry. Here's a nice big one, but now can you see you're going to have lots of lines next to other lines. So you have to make sure that these lines that you're doing here are at a different angle to the other guys, so that they distinct, and you can see that it's not the continuation of the other guys. And then over here you can see there's a leaf running in front of it, so I'm not going over that. I'm avoiding that, and that's making this look like it's going behind. Alright, let's end that guy over there. Thicken up his outline. And let's thicken up that center line as well a bit. Why not? Just because we can. Let's see. Over here. Here it was quite complex. So like I say, I'm going to just simplify this here a little bit. And don't be shy when you're putting these lines in, to wiggle and squiggle them a little bit. They don't have to be like perfectly straight. It adds to that texture. And the interest. Oh, there I went. Oh, luckily it was just on the edge. Okay. Ooh, I dodged a bullet. I thought I'd gone over my front leaf. Because if you do, you're going to have to... so there's that leaf continuing over there. If you do go over one of your previous guys, you'll just have to wing it and change your design a little bit. Here's just a leaf coming off a stem over there. Like that, and that leaf comes out over there. That's a stem, he's good. And here's a leaf. Alright, so we've now already, can you see how quickly it's gone? We've basically finished that whole background already. How many minutes has that taken us? 5? So cool, eh? Okay, don't forget to thicken up your outlines, because they help with definition and separating the individual items. That and the different angle lines. See, because those ones went this way, so now I'm going to put these guys that way like that, and that's separating them from each other. And the last one, so again he's going to have to go at a different angle now, so I'm going to just wiggle him along that direction. And then thicken up his outline. To add that definition. Alrighty, so can you see these guys are now quite bright, and we want to take these guys and make them also that green. So these guys now need to go dull to make them look like they go out into the distance. They're receding into the distance. Almost like a watermark effect. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to nuke this quickly with the hairdryer. It dries literally instantly because, like I say, I'm sure it's a alcohol-based mixture that they've added in to make it run. So it dries super fast. So you just zip it and it's done. That was literally it. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just take some plain titanium white. Or if you were using a color in the background, then you can use that color. You'd use that same color. And now you're going to give a color wash over this. So I'm not even going to add any water or nothing into the paint. Just going to use it straight out the tube. And just start at one end. And just give this guy a light glaze. And there you go. Now you've instantly popping that out into the distance. So the more thicker the layer of paint you put over there, the more this will disappear into the distance. So I'm going to be reasonably generous because I know that the white paint does tend to become a little bit more transparent when it dries. So Renee is saying I have acrylic pens, and they're very good for signing your signature on paintings. Yes, they do. They work great. Especially on larger paintings. I find you do get the finer point ones as well. Let me see if I can see my larger guys. You get some really big ones too. Just not seeing it right now. I don't know where it's disappeared to. It's supposed to be in my box of paints. But you get really thick points and you get thinner points as well. So, you know, depending on the type of the size of the artwork you're doing, you can use that for signing your artworks. Just don't use it for signing your oil paintings though, because obviously it's an acrylic base, so it can't lie on top of the oil paint. But for your acrylic paintings, yeah, absolutely, it works great. So when you give this layer here, do try and get it reasonably even. As before, you can see it's going nice and quick. I would say if you want to like sell artworks and stuff, this style here is perfect because it's really quick artworks, and I think they're pretty effective. I really like them. And you can do this not just in acrylic, you can do this in oil, you can do it in watercolor. Watercolor is great for it as well. You can do this in colored pencil, this style. It's really versatile as far as what you can use it for. Okay, so as I'm doing this, I am just also constantly referencing with my picture so that I can see whether I'm not going over the front guys. I don't want to be killing those lines by accident. And then when it comes to actually doing them, then I'm stuck. So I've painted my lines closed. Because that's the thing with the dressmaker's carbon paper again. It's also sort of water-based. Or water-soluble, at least. I should say that. So it will quickly disappear if you paint over it. It will just mix into your paints. Okay, there's that. Right, so while I've got this white paint here on my palette, I think what we must also do is let's put in that little base shading on the face as well. Let's get that done. But now, to make sure that we don't lose our lines as we do that, what you want to do is just add your outlines around it first, so that when you do paint your shadings on the face, you'll be going over the lines, but you'll still be able to see them, and you won't lose them, because that black will now shine through in the same way as it is over here. Alrighty. So take a look now. Can you see there? That's gone darker than these guys that have just been painted. That shows you that the white becomes more transparent as it dries. So if you need to, give these guys a second or even a third coat to get them dark. And what's nice is they're not overlapping other things, so you can easily do it again later. I think the Posca pens is pretty much the same concept as this. It's just a different brand. But I couldn't say for certain. I haven't actually gone and bought myself the Posca pens yet. They are on my list, and I am going to get some shortly. Then I'll be able to tell you with certainty. Right, so obviously the more layers you add over this, the less you see it, the further away it appears. So that's your way of getting multiple distances in here, if you want. So I'll just go over, say, these guys over here again for a second round. And I'll chuck the brush in the water, just leave him there. Let's do our just some outlining on the face. So as before, I'm going to just use this as my reference here as a guide. So when you're outlining the face, what you're looking for are the main features. You don't want to lose them. And that's really all you need. Just those main little features. And as before, you can see I'm outlining it initially quite thin. I'm happy to come back later on and thicken anything up, because it's really quick and easy, as you can see. And I'm not necessarily always using solid lines. Just little bits of lines is often enough. Little broken lines, often enough to give you the shape that you need. Because that's all you're trying to do, is just retain the definition. Alright, see here in the hair. Let's go and take a look and see what did Alphonse do with his hair when he had to tackle hair. Can you see there? He's absolutely just simplified it as much as he could, and he's just added a few little curly whirlies for flair, pretty much. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to take just a few little lines. First of all, just to create the definition. And then on the ends, we'll use our artist license and add a bit of curls in there to create that flare. Why not? Just because we can. So what's nice is then I'm now able to use those because of the filter that you get on the computer. I'm now able to get just some basic lines initially, you know, that you can follow. Okay, here's an ear, so let's define that. Again, just really basic lines like that. And then here on the end, we've got those the ends of the hair. So let's get 1 or 2 strands going over. And let's broaden them like that. Okay, that one I think I'll leave thinner like that. Let's take this one and let's maybe curl them like that over there. And I think this is exactly where we're going to use our gold pen. We'll use it in that area over there like that. Then while we add it, I'm going to just extend all this into this corner over here. Then that'll get that side of that artwork sorted, you know, in that corner. Alrighty, and we just need a few little suggestions of eyebrows in this vicinity. So I'm just using dabs and dashes. We do want to keep the eyebrows delicate. Don't want to make them too bushy. I think that should do the trick. Maybe just a touch here and there in the lips, not too much. Don't overdo that. Alrighty, and then here we've also just got 1 or 2 hairs that are curling out from over there. Yeah, that's into the trick on that area over there. Awesome, so we've got that sorted. Let's zip this with the hairdryer, and let's add some of that the definition into the face. Before we continue, I want to briefly tell you about my real-time paint and draw along art classes on my website. For a very small amount, you can get access to over 400 paint and draw along tutorials where you pack out your art supplies and you follow along as I show and explain to you in step-by-step detail how to complete each project. There are classes in acrylic, oil, watercolor, pencil, soft pastel, and even lesser known mediums like pen and ink and sketchboarding. There's a link in the description below. Take a look. You'll be amazed at the awesome classes available there. Alrighty, let's continue from where we left off. Alrighty, I think let's go over to the palette. Let's go there. And let's maybe overlay our inspiration from Alphonse. So you can see the colors he's used are super muted, and the main colors that I'm seeing are sort of burnt sienna, yellow ochre kind of colors, eh? So I'll start with, say, a bit of burnt sienna. And a touch of yellow ochre. And possibly just a little bit of color in the lips. Just to suggest a tiny touch of lipstick. So let's put down some Naphthol crimson. That's what I've got over here. Any crimson-y kind of reddy kind of color. But not bright red, you know, not fire engine red. You wouldn't want to use that. It would be too bright for this artwork. Remember, the colors need to be muted. So rather a crimson kind of direction color is better for what we're doing here today. And some more white. Awesome. So we'll tackle these colors and let's see if they okay or if they still too bright straight out the tube. So for the face, I'm definitely seeing quite a yellow ochre kind of look to it, and you're going to have to now be really restrained with the amount of color you're adding to the white. So don't overdo the color. So I'm checking it on my screen, so I'll just pick it up on the knife and I'll hold it up against the screen like this. And it does seem to be the color that we've got over there. So let's give the face just a whole coating with that. And again, I don't think I'm going to bother thinning the paint down or anything like that. We'll just slap it on just as a basic little coating. Yeah, I think for that I'll use my trusty old soft filbert brush. So that's about a ½ an inch, around 1 centimeter. Let's go to there. So all this is now beautifully dry. Oh, I see there's one line that I missed there. Where's my pen? Where did he roll off to? There's just one little line over here for my shirt. So that's got to go behind the hair like that. Cool. That's literally all it took to dry that. Right, so let's give all this face area here just a coating. So you can see now that I'm able to go over this and cover all this up. It's not a problem. All that previous outline work. Then right at the end we'll come back and we'll redefine it. If we didn't have that little initial outlining work that we've done, if we didn't do that, then these lines of yours are going to disappear quite quickly on you. When you battle to find them, what happens then? They end up in the wrong places, and then you've lost all that nice accuracy that initial sketch work of yours has given you. So I'm not going to try to not go into the hair. Just there like that. Alright, so let's maybe put the let's maybe just pop the palette down over there. Now I'm going to just dip into this and add it to here, just to get a darker tonal value. We're happy with the color, so all we need now is the darker tonal value, and I'm going to use the reference photo. Let's see, how can we do that? Let's do that. Then you can see the colors and the reference photo and everything all at once. So I can see it's darker over here, so now I'm going to take some of this darker color and just bring it in here, because all this is now still wet. You can see here by the nose it's darker over there. Darker here under the chin. There it goes even darker, and it's almost a different color. So I think we'll stop over there, just give this a super quick little blend like that. You can see it's dark here by the eyes. And I can see now why this whole system worked well for Alphonse, because he was doing these things as adverts, and look how quick we're working. You know, he needed to create these adverts quickly, because the longer you took on them, the essentially the less money you got, because time is money. Just giving this, it's all just lasers, literally just lasers. You can see we've really got some definition into the face here, just by doing this a little bit. I think I'm going to bring just a little bit of burnt sienna into this, just to warm it up ever so slightly. I don't mind the yellow. But I think it's just going to look better with a green, adding some of this. Some of the burnt sienna into that. That's better, eh? We don't need to cover all this. We can use that initial yellow ochre bits as the lighter versions, so that as we come in with this becomes sort of the darker shadowy colors. If it's warm there by you today and it's starting to dry up on you, then just dip your brush in the water and then dry it off. Just so that it's damp, and that little bit of dampness on the brush. So for example, here at the moment I'm washing my brush so that it's clean. It's clean, and I've just dried it off on my cloth. So he's got that bit of dampness back in him. And just that little bit of dampness will be enough for you to just smooth these guys out. And get that bit of blending that you need. There's still a little bit of skin in this area. Yeah, hey, that's also skin there. That's still part of her face. So it's darker over here, so I'm using a little bit more of the brown in there. Just don't get your brush too wet, because then you'll find it's going to start... you're going to battle to blend. Your blends will just keep running. I wonder if we should dull this down a little bit with maybe a bit of blue in it. Just a tiny, or even just a bit of Payne's Grey. I think I'll use some French Ultramarine. Tiniest little dot. Just there onto the brush like that. And that just takes that vibrancy away from the paint. And that gives you more of a shadowy kind of color. Just try and keep the color reasonably flat. Carmel's saying it's minus 12 degrees there. No worries about paint drying. It's high summer here today, so yeah, the paint's drying quite quickly, but it's fine. I don't mind, especially with acrylics. You know, acrylics likes to be layered anyway, so if it dries on me, it doesn't matter. Just continue adding more layers until I'm happy with the effect. You can see there, all that is dry. That little bit I painted there, it's all dry. Everything on the palette is dry. And that's fine. I just come back over it with another layer. Soften up any little hard edges, all those kind of things. Yeah, no problem whatsoever. Let's get a bit of darkness into here as well. Maybe just a little suggestion of that dimple there in the nose. And then here where the hair and the face meet, there's always the hair casts a little bit of a shadow there. So we need to add a little bit of tonal value over there as well. So now I'm using these colors. You're obviously more than welcome to use any colors. I've noticed that, you know, as long as they're pastel kind of colors, the guys like to use like oranges and stuff as well. But you could even use like purples. I've seen purples. So it doesn't have to be realistic colors. Remember, this was a whole movement away from that real hectic realism. Didn't want the realism anymore. Or didn't want as much realism. There are still influences, like for example the faces and stuff. There are still little influences of realism. But it's very subdued. Alrighty, I think I'm going to stick with that. See how quick it went? It wasn't difficult. We didn't have to do crazy blending and molding and stuff here on the face like we normally would if you were doing a very realistic portrait. Let's tackle those lips. So I'm going to take just a smaller, finer brush now, just this round brush. Let's get that red. And again, it needs to be just toned down. So we'll take some yellow ochre, because that was our base skin color. And some white. There we go. Now it's a bit more of a pinky color. I think I'm going to add even more white and more yellow into that. I'm rather going to have it too muted initially. We can always add some more vibrancy to it afterwards. And I need just a tiny touch of water in there because it's so hot here today. Otherwise the paint's just simply not flowing. Yeah, I think that's a nice natural color. It works with what we've got here, hey? Just by adding that yellow ochre to it, it's created a harmony, a color harmony. Cool. And now her eyes. Let's see, we've got some blue here, and I think the blue will work with the other colors that we're using. So I'm going to take some of that ultramarine, touch of white into it. Let's just add some color into her eyes over there. You see, I can go straight over all that black. Not a problem. Alright, let's take some neat white. Let's just add a little bit of highlights here on the bottom lip. Just to add some extra definition over there. Just a suggestion, like that. And let's take that red, work a little bit more of that into the lip mixture. And just a tiny touch of the burnt sienna, just to take away the vibrancy again. And let's add that in the bottom area, because what happens, your bottom lip points upwards and it gets lighter, and the top lip points downwards, so he doesn't get as much sunlight, so he's darker. Awesome. Alrighty, so for the hair, let's take burnt sienna and just add a little bit of something different to it. Let's start with no yellow ochre. Just use burnt sienna and white. Because I can see what Alphonse has done there. He's got darker at the top and then lighter towards the bottom. I'm sure we can do that. So let's take that. Let's maybe add just a little bit of yellow ochre into it. Yeah, so that's more browner. Can you see there? It's browner than the face. So that's going to give us that separation so that they're not, it doesn't look like all the same thing. So we'll start with this. Just tap my brush into the water, get a little bit of water on there. Cool, so I'm going to knock this in here. And I'm putting it in really loose. There's even little patches of canvas still shining through. So that'll be fine. So I want it in a little bit more flowing, as though it's the hair. So it's suggesting of movement, but it's no details of movement. Okay, as we go down, let's maybe add some white to it. So just chuck white in here on the palette. It's not enough paint to try and add all sorts of other fancy details and stuff in here. It's just a little bit of, okay, that's that. And then even more just in these little individual guys. Alrighty, now she does have a shirt. So we want the shirt to sort of just blend in and harmonize with all the other colors. So I'm thinking maybe we should do like just a very dull green. So what have I got here? I've got a permanent green light. If you've got a sap green or you can even take blue and yellow, mix them together. Let's take that and let's dull that down. Don't want it bright. So we'll start with white, add some green into it. Again, it's just a little bit of paint. So that's a little too bright, so let's take a little bit of ultramarine into that just to dull it down. Just want to turf the vibrancy. Let's get that in there. And don't be shy, go over your outlines. Those outlines are just for a guide. And over here, where the hair and the shirt meet, I'm going to just blend those colors into each other, so that you don't really know where does the shirt end and the hair stop. And that should save us all that hassle of trying to paint individual hairs. We don't want to get involved in that. Only a little bit of definition is floating around this vicinity over here. just like that, that's fine. Alrighty, so now it's back to the pen, because now we can go and re-establish any of these lines that we had to go over again. And needless to say, you don't have to go exactly over these guys. You could leave them and create new ones. That'll give you just a different dimension, same as what we did over here. Can you see how quick and easy it is to add this definition back? And when you do, look how nice that everything just comes together, eh? It's like these outlines add all that punch that you're looking for. So I'm just being a little bit more careful here with the hair ones, just to get them nice and neat. There, my paint isn't quite dry yet. I'll have to come back to that. My green that I was painting there. As you work with this pen as well, you'll also find that at some point the paint that's now inside the tip will be finished. So then all you do is just go back to your palette or whatever and just give him a press, just to get some more of this paint over here back into that tip of yours. And you've got some nice fresh paint to work with again. There we go. Now my green paint is dry, so this paint is going over it perfectly now. Okay, there's that. What else have I have? What have I not done yet? And this is also a bit of a a second chance for you to fix little bits that you didn't do perfectly the first time you did your outlines. Okay, let's take a look. Let's get our gold pen. And I'm going to add some gold bits into the hair as well. Nice flowing lines. So as you can see, I'm adding some thicker and some thinner lines. Just by turning the pen. Here, make sure, use the thin point and just fill in that in the center of the black. So with these long guys, I do need that gold to now sort of not just continue all the way up. So what I'm going to do, as I come up here, I'm going to just split that into two thinner lines. Let's add just one or two that are on their own, not outlined, over there. Okay, that's done. Last bit. So now we're on the home stretch of this guy again. So let's go to there, and I'm just going to pop the hairdryer over that guy for a second. I keep forgetting this silly line here. He just doesn't want to be painted. Alrighty, so now that we've got, I'll maybe put that over there, just so you can compare where I'm working from. Now we've got the same green pen, but now we're working basically next to those guys. So as before, I'm going to start off with the outline, and look what's happening now. Because we painted that white, we can instantly see the difference. Those guys have now been pushed backwards. So as before, just keep using your finger on the reference. And that way you're not going to get confused about which way to go. So I'm going to try and do this now as quick as I can. So now this here is more of the same. Okay, you're seeing the definition appearing now. It's starting to look really nice. And there's a little bit more up this vicinity. Alrighty, so let's add our definition lines in there. So don't forget, you can now start with that center line as well to get your directions right. If you starting to get confused, because it can happen quite quickly. Can you see here I've got a leaf or a petal, so there's the center line on this one. So now I can put all my other guys following that center line initially and gradually changing them until they meet that silhouette over there, like this. Same on that side. So they gradually morph and change until they meet the other guys on that side. Here's a different leaf, so I need a different direction. And that's the way you separate them. Now you can distinctly tell that they're different. And he's now different. His directions are going this way. Alright, let's get a center line going down on this guy. And now we can change that. Those center lines, make them differ so that they end up meeting the outside edge. Obviously, if you've got a nice fine pen, you can add even more lines in if you want. Alrighty, yeah, look at that, we're nearly done. Always, if you're unsure, add that center line. He always gets you going. So there I can see my pen is starting to dry up on me. That's my cue to recharge him by giving a press on the palette. Now it's also obviously quite important that you don't go like over the edges. Stay inside the flower or the petal or whatever you're busy doing. And can you see how this little bit of squiggling adds a lot of extra movement and interest. Center line. Add in all the other guys. So I'm sure by now you're really starting to get a good feel for what this painting is going to look like once it's done. Center line, add the rest of your lines out from there. And what's also nice is that because it's acrylic, these pens are the paint itself is opaque. So if you have made a mistake, you can go over a previous place and you'll be able to see the difference. Or you'll be able to cover up your mistake. Right, I'm going to stop at that over there. Now I'm going to go over to the blue one. Just make sure it's primed and just come back in here and just define all those outlines. And that should now add that last little bit of extra interest to this painting. Yeah, I think the color on this one works quite nicely with the green. I'm happy with that. It's always a bit of a risk when you buy a new color, and then it's not the same as what you see on the packaging. And as I'm doing this outlining here now, I'm not shy to go over the edges. I don't have to follow the previous lines perfectly. That's quite okay to be a little bit different. As long as these outside edges are either thicker or a different color like we're doing here now, you sort it. And look at that beautiful definition we're getting there now. Oh, there's a few green lines I missed. They need to go that way. So what you'd want to do now is just make sure that you've got everything, that you haven't missed anything. For example, over here, can you see that leaf is not going past the hair over there? So just check for things like that. And just a little bit of tidy ups here and there. For example, this one, I can see I've gone over his outline a little bit, so I just bring that outline back in again. Because all of this is opaque, I can do that. Alrighty, so in those corners I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but now that I've got this, I think what I'm going to do, the easiest now is just to just extend this out. So now do we know what's what over here. Let's maybe put a leaf that goes over here behind that guy like that. I was just thinking maybe I'll do like different little curly designs or something, but I just don't think it's going to work. I think it works better like this. And then there we've got another leaf. Maybe running along there like that. And then I've just got one more in this top corner. So I'm going to turf the logo there just so that you can see what I'm doing. Let's see, let's maybe just add let's have maybe a leaf that's coming out like that, and something else going in there like that. Yeah, there we go. So that's given us a nice little two-tone effect there. I'm quite happy with that. Yeah, I think I'll leave it like that. I think that'll look quite nice in a bedroom or even in a lounge. Nice little Art Nouveau painting there, right? So I hope you enjoyed that class. If you have, please don't forget to give a like and a subscribe. And please leave a comment as well, because that way YouTube knows that the classes that I'm giving you are worth watching and showing to other people. And of course, if you've enjoyed today's lesson, there's tons more on my website. Take a look at the link below, onlineartlessons.com. I'll see you there. There's hundreds more classes like that. So thank you for joining me in the class today. I really enjoyed it. You have yourself an awesome time and good luck with your painting. I'll see you next time. Guys, thanks for joining me in the live class. I really appreciate it. You have yourself a wonderful weekend. I'll see you next time.